Alright, hi guys. This is that part 2 to the lesson earlier where I had you guys actually identify the central idea and write down some of the vocabulary words that we are going to be doing this week. Today what we're going to be doing is we're actually going to be reading the passage called Woolly Mammoth Sparks Debate Over Cloning. I'm going to show you kind of how I would answer some of these things that are on there. Just to kind of give you guys a quick little lesson tutorial about finding the central idea of the passage, and as well as doing some vocabulary and some other things. So you will be seeing me kind of making some edits in here. If you want to do yours the same way, great. If not, share it with me on Canvas. Either way, you'll be able to actually write those things in or send me a screenshot of those things that you are doing. So what we are going to be doing today, we are actually going to be answering the questions that are going to be on the Woolly Mammoth Sparks Debate. And we are going to be working on that together. And then when you guys go off on your own, you're going to be reading another passage independently. So you'll just show me that you've got this done by sending me the answers the same way that we're doing it, all right? So if you look, number 1 here, summarize the central ideas of the article in no more than 2 sentences. We are going to have to write 2 sentences here. No more, no less. That's what it's asking us to do. Number 2, it's asking us what does the word captivity most closely mean as it is used in paragraph 9. Looking at that, I know captivity, we'll talk about that here in a second. Number 3, part B, which phrase from the paragraph best supports the answer to part A? Again, that is for this part, or this question 2 right here. Number 4, which of the following best states the purpose of paragraph 11? And again, that's going to be something that we've talked about in the past. And then last one, number 5, what reason does the author provide for why some scientists believe the woolly mammoth should be cloned? Cite a piece of evidence from the article. You know me, you know that I like to read the questions before I actually read the passage. I think that that's a lot easier to do. So that's what we're going to kind of work with here, and we're going to go back in the passage and find our actual answers. So looking at number 1, it's not a multiple choice. We can't cut anything down, so we'll jump to number 2 really quickly and kind of cut some of those things down there. Number 2 says, what does the word captivity most closely mean as it is used in paragraph 9? Me, personally, I like to cut down some of the answer choices that are there, so I look at those. I look at captivity, and do I say that captivity means A, confinement? Well, I know what the word captivity means in my head, and I also know what it means based on the definition that I found online. Confinement kind of ties into that. Look at number B, I say challenge. I don't necessarily know that it's going to be challenge, so I'm going to go in and I'm going to go to my markup tool really quickly. And just the way that I like to do things here, I'm going to go ahead and put a nice little X next to that one. I do it on the inside so I don't have to make any changes to that. That way I can kind of keep track of that, but not necessarily answer it. Number 3, research. Captivity research, negative. So I'm going to also mark that one out with an X. Okay, my X's don't look that nice. I'm still learning how to use the markup tool effectively. And then danger. Hey, I can zoom in. That's nice. Danger, I'm going to say no, just because I know that captivity doesn't mean danger. But, so I'm going to kind of assume, I guess, that my answer is going to be A, but I don't know that, right? I'm going to guess that it means A just because of my knowledge of the definition. But it's actually asking me as it is used in paragraph 9. I haven't even read the passage yet, so I'm just going to kind of guess that. Which phrase from the paragraph best supports the answer to part A? Would need an Asian elephant to be the clone's mother? I don't know about that one. Experiment with the cloning process? So they could closely monitor them out of the wild? I kind of see that, so I might say that Asian elephants are endangered. Again, I can't cross them out because I don't know what the context is. I haven't read the passage yet, but I can kind of assume that the correct answer could be C just by looking at that. So what I've done now is I've been able to cut out 2 of those things, or some of those answers, and kind of get those in. Something that we've talked about a lot, guys. When you're answering questions, see what you can narrow down without even reading it. Now, does that mean that you don't read it? Absolutely not. If you didn't read it, then you're not going to get the correct answer no matter what. But at least now we can kind of get that. I'm not going to jump into number 4 because it's sitting there asking us the purpose of paragraph 11. I have to read paragraph 11 to identify the purpose of it. We'll get through that after we get through this. But I'm going to jump in here, and I'm actually going to... And I'm going to actually go through and read up to paragraph 9. And I'm going to answer questions 2 and 3 first. And the reason why is they're not writing questions. They're not written questions. Not questions that I actually have to write. They're questions that I actually have to, just think about and find the correct answer. I'm going to jump back into number 1, but I don't have to do that just yet. So let me go back and let me read this passage up until we get to paragraph 9, and my goal for this is to find what the word captivity most closely means as it is used in paragraph 9, and which phrase best supports the answer to part A. I think that my answer is confinement, and I think that my answer is so they could closely monitor them out of the wild, just based on those things, but I don't know yet. So let me go through, and I'm going to go back and now read this. If you don't want to listen to me read it, just pause it and read it for yourself. If you'd like to listen to me read it, great. You will be doing this on your own anyway here in just a few. So make sure that you have that at least down. All right, woolly mammoth sparks debate over cloning. The woolly mammoth is an extinct species of mammoth, a mammal related to the elephant that lived during the Ice Ages. I'm going to go ahead and get this up because I like to mark things up. I'm going to get out my highlighter just in case I want to mark anything down. The woolly mammoth is an extinct species of mammoth, a mammal related to the elephant that lived during the Ice Ages. The animal is known from bones and frozen carcasses from northern North America and northern Eurasia. The species disappeared about 10,000 years ago, but modern technology has sparked a debate about whether or not extinct species like the woolly mammoth should be brought back. As you read, take note of the pros and cons of cloning extinct species. A woolly mammoth carcass that was frozen in ice for 40,000 years may make it possible for scientists to bring the extinct species back to life. The mammoth was found embedded in ice in a remote island off northern Russia in May 2013. The ice had preserved the body so well, a liquid that looked like blood oozed out of it when it was first discovered. That's kind of gross. Scientists were very excited because fresh blood cells may contain DNA or genetic information about the mammoth. If scientists can find the mammoth's complete DNA, they might be able to clone the animal. Scientists are wanting to clone the animal? That's interesting. Cloning is a process that makes it possible to create an exact copy of an animal. Scientists take genetic information from the cell of one animal and insert it into the egg of another animal. The second animal then gives birth to an exact genetic copy of the first animal. Interesting there. Cloning. I wonder if that's a vocabulary word. Just checking. After the mammoth carcass was dug up, scientists spent 3 days studying it and taking samples of its blood and tissues. Then they froze it again to prevent it from rotting. Soem, a biotechnology company from South Korea, is studying samples taken from the mammoth to see if they can find enough genetic information to try cloning it. Woolly mammoths have been extinct for 10,000 years. Many scientists think they could learn a lot more about the species if they could study a living example. Other scientists think cloning an extinct species is a bad idea. Dr. Tori Harridge, a scientist at the Natural History Museum in London, England, helped study the woolly mammoth's body. She doesn't think scientists should try to clone it. She said that scientists would need an Asian elephant to be the clone's mother. This means they would have to keep several elephants in captivity while they experiment with the cloning process so that they could closely monitor them out in the wild. But Asian elephants are endangered and don't do well in captivity. All right, I found my answer. So my original question was, what does the word captivity most closely mean as it is used in paragraph 9? I thought it was confinement. Okay, and then I thought that was that because of that. So let's read this because of what it said. Let's read this and see if we can agree that captivity means confinement. She said that scientists would need an Asian elephant to be the clone's mother. This means they would have to keep several elephants in captivity while they experiment with the cloning process so that they could closely monitor them out of the wild. Right there, I think I found my answer. Okay? So I have captivity here. Let's see if I can just kind of highlight that. Captivity, while they experiment with the cloning process so that they could, right here, so that they could closely monitor them out of the wild. So what does captivity actually mean? Does captivity mean that they're going to be free, or does captivity mean that they're going to be put in confinement? What do you think? I kind of agree. I hope that you said, maybe you didn't say that, but I hope that if you look at this question now, you can identify what the correct answer is. So let's see if we can. I'm going to go ahead and do the markup tool here. I really hope that you identified the correct answer as being A. So what does the word captivity mean, or most closely mean as it is used in paragraph 9? So looking at that, paragraph 9, captivity so that they could closely monitor them out of the wild. They're not challenging them. I could see why somebody would say research, but they're not researching them. They're not endangering them. They're putting them in confinement. A way that we can tell this, by the way, replace the word captivity with the word confinement. So let's look here. This means they would need to they would have to keep several elephants in confinement while they experiment with the cloning process. Does that make sense? If it makes sense, then that's the correct definition of it. Okay? Looking at the other ones, if we threw the other words in there, we have challenge, research, and danger. Let's see how that sounds. This means they would have to keep several elephants in challenge while they experiment with the cloning process. Does that make sense? No. This means they would have to keep several elephants in research while they experiment. No. This means that they would have to keep several elephants in danger while they experiment with the cloning process so that they could closely monitor. I mean, that one actually sounds like it could be, but we know it's not the answer. We know that the answer is confinement based on this. Now, how do we find that answer? What helped us find that answer there? Boom. We even just highlighted it. C was correct, so they could closely monitor them out of the wild. So now with this, we're able to identify what the correct answer is based on that. All right? So we've answered questions 2 and question 3, but we need to jump back to question 1. So let's look at question 1 really quickly and identify what we're actually trying to find here. Summarize the central ideas of the article in no more than 2 sentences. I have to find what the main idea of this is. This is a non-fiction text. I have to identify what it is mostly about in 2 sentences. So I kind of have an idea here, but I'm going to go back and I'm going to kind of highlight some things that help me identify this. Now, it's not asking me to use details from the text, but obviously you know that I'm going to. It just means I don't have to use the yes ma'am strategy when I'm answering that question, right? So let's look at number 1. Summarize the central ideas of the article in no more than 2 sentences. All right? Let's look at this really quickly. I'm going to go back and I'm going to read it. And in this case, I'm actually going to highlight what I think is the most important things that are here. All right? I'm going to challenge you when you guys are doing this as well on your own. Take pictures. Highlight these things so that you guys are actually able to show me. All right? I will kind of put those as directions so that you know what to do. All right, looking at this. Woolly Mammoth sparks debate over cloning. I know that cloning is going to be a big thing that is in this passage, right? I don't know why I used that. There we go. Cloning. I'm going to highlight cloning. Okay, I'm going to highlight woolly mammoth because I know that this passage is about woolly mammoths. Makes sense. All right. The woolly mammoth is an extinct species of mammoth, a mammal related to the elephant that lived during the ice ages. The animal is known from bones and frozen carcasses from northern North America and northern Eurasia. The species disappeared around 10,000 years ago, but modern technology has sparked a debate about whether or not an extinct species like the woolly mammoth should be brought back. Look at that. Look how nice I can highlight this too, guys. Right there in that gray paragraph that you guys do not read all the time just kind of gives me an idea of what this is going to be about. As you read, take note of the pros and cons of cloning extinct species. Look at that. It's literally telling you exactly what it's going to be about, guys. The pros and cons of cloning extinct species. This is an argumentative kind of thing, right? Something that we've talked about, all right? So we have woolly mammoth cloning, modern technology has sparked a debate about whether or not extinct species like the woolly mammoth should be brought back. Okay, so what are some of the essential ideas? I already know it's going to be about woolly mammoths and cloning, right? I already know that they're talking about whether or not they should be brought back and the pros and cons. Okay, so let's think about what it's mostly about after reading this. A woolly mammoth carcass that was frozen in ice for 40,000 years may make it possible for scientists to bring the extinct species back. I like that. The mammoth was found embedded in ice on a remote island off northern Russia in May 2013. The ice had preserved the body so well, a liquid that looked like blood oozed out of it when it was first discovered. Don't know if that's really going to help me identify the main idea, or the central idea. Scientists were very excited because fresh blood cells may contain DNA or genetic information about the mammoth. Okay? If scientists can find the mammoth's complete DNA, they might be able to clone the animal. I like that whole thing. Cloning is a process that makes it possible to create an exact copy of an animal. Scientists take genetic information from the cell of one animal and insert it into the egg of another animal. The second animal then gives birth to an exact genetic copy of the first animal. After the mammoth carcass was dug up, scientists spent 3 days studying it and taking samples of its blood and tissues. Then they froze it again to prevent it from rotting. Sohum, a biotechnology company from South Korea, is studying samples taken from the mammoth to see if they can find enough genetic information to try cloning it. Woolly mammoths have been extinct for 10,000 years. Many scientists think they could learn a lot more about the species if they can study a living example. Other scientists think cloning an extinct species is a bad idea. Look at that right there, guys. Now, why didn't I highlight everything that I read there? Well, I didn't think it was that important. I thought that this was probably important, though, because it's something that we can kind of take into that central idea now. After we highlight this, I'll kind of go over that. Dr. Tori Harridge, a scientist at the Natural History Museum in London, England, helped study the woolly mammoth's body. She doesn't think scientists should try to clone it. Go on to this next page really quickly. She said the scientists would need an Asian elephant to be the clone's mother. This means they would have to keep several elephants in captivity while they experiment with the cloning process, so that they could closely monitor them out of the wild. But Asian elephants are endangered and don't do well in captivity. Dr. Harridge said that giving birth to a woolly mammoth could be dangerous for the elephant mother. Once the baby was born, it would also have to live in captivity. In addition, it would be the only mammoth in the world, and woolly mammoths prefer to live in herds. Okay. So I found on my previous page something I want to go back to, and I'm going to show you why I highlighted this. But we know that they're weighing the pros and cons of cloning woolly mammoths. Dr. Harridge thinks that scientists... Don't want to do that. Sorry. Wanted to make sure I have this highlighted. Dr. Harridge thinks scientists can learn a lot by studying the remains, or just by studying the remains of the woolly mammoth. So far, scientists have found out that the woolly mammoth, who they nicknamed Buttercup, was 2.5 meters tall and about 50 years old when she died. By studying the growth rings in her tusks, they can tell that she gave birth to 8 calves. Her teeth show that she had dental problems. By examining the contents and bacteria found in her intestines, scientists can tell she ate grassland plants like dandelions and buttercups. They think she died after she became trapped in a peat bog and then was attacked by predators such as wolves. In-Sung Hwang is one of the scientists at Sohum. He said that they have not yet found complete DNA in any of the samples, but they have found pieces of DNA that can be pieced together. He added that it will take scientists a long time to analyze the genetic information from the mammoth, and even longer before they try cloning an animal. All right. Now, looking at this question right here, summarize the central idea of the article in no more than 2 sentences. I look back at the things I've highlighted, and I talk about what this passage was mostly about. This passage was mostly about the fact that they found a woolly mammoth that was well preserved, And, sorry, that was well preserved, and they're thinking about actually cloning it to learn more about it. But there's a debate about it. They debate whether or not they should actually clone it, right? So, looking at all my things, I look at that, and I know that scientists found the carcass or the remains of a woolly mammoth. They are debating whether or not they should actually clone it. So, I look back at this now, guys. The central idea of this, what was the whole passage mostly about? Okay? And I'm actually going to turn this sideways so I can actually write this a little bit better. And so that you guys can see. Sorry if my handwriting is a little bit messy. It's a lot easier for me to write on paper than it is on this, but we'll give it a go anyway. Okay? What is the central idea of the article in no more than 2 sentences? So what was the passage mostly about? Okay? So, the article was mostly about how scientists found a preserved, the word preserved there is going to be very important, preserved carcass of a woolly mammoth. Now, not to throw any shade your guys' way there, but my handwriting with my finger on an iPad is neater than some of your guys' handwriting. You need to work on that. Hey, why don't you do that while we're on e-learning? Work on some of your handwriting, right? Okay? Okay. Kind of kidding there, kind of not. All right. So the article was mostly about how scientists found a preserved carcass of a woolly mammoth. But what else was it about? Okay. So the article also showed that there is a debate over whether they should or should not try to clone the woolly mammoth to try to learn about it. 2 sentences, the central idea. What was the passage mostly about? The article was mostly about how scientists found a preserved carcass of a woolly mammoth. The article also showed that there is a debate over whether they should or should not try to clone the woolly mammoth, try to learn about it. Okay? Out of everything that I've highlighted, that supports those. Okay? So, when I look at the central idea, I'm looking at what it is mostly about here. All right? The article was mostly about how scientists found a preserved carcass of a woolly mammoth. It talks about that multiple times in the passage. Boom, 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 multiple times. The article also showed that there is a debate over whether they should or should not try to clone the woolly mammoth to try to learn about it. Right there, many scientists think they could learn a lot about, but other scientists think cloning an extinct species is a bad idea. When you're looking at the central idea, you're talking about what actually happened, what it was mostly about. All right? Number 4. Which of the following best states the purpose of paragraph 11? Sorry. Which of the following best states the purpose of paragraph 11? Say A, to introduce the fact that Dr. Harridge is against all instances of cloning. Okay. Is it B, to explain a reason why Dr. Harridge believes the woolly mammoth should not be cloned? Is it C, to point out that Dr. Harridge is uncertain of her position on whether or not the mammoth should be cloned? Or is it D, to note that while Dr. Harridge is against cloning the mammoth, she still believes its remains should be studied for scientific research? We're going to look back at paragraph 11 now. Guys, I'm going to go ahead and highlight paragraph 11 for you. You guys are kind of catching the first glimpse of me actually doing this. I'm going to highlight this in a different color. This is paragraph 11, guys. Wow. So paragraph 11. But I'm going to read paragraph 10 just because it's highlighted and because Dr. Harridge actually is in there as well. Dr. Harridge said that giving birth to a woolly mammoth could be dangerous for the elephant mother. Once the baby was born, it would also have to live in captivity. In addition, it would be the only mammoth in the world, and woolly mammoths preferred to live in herds. Dr. Harridge thinks scientists can learn a lot just by studying the remains of the woolly mammoth. Whew. Which of the following best states the purpose of paragraph 11? To explain the fact that Dr. Harridge is against all instances of cloning. Does that say that in paragraphs 10 or 11? No, it's only talking about her not liking the fact that they're wanting to clone woolly mammoths, right? So it's not going to be A. Okay. What about B? To explain a reason why Dr. Harridge believes the woolly mammoth should not be cloned. I mean, that says it in paragraph 10 that it would be dangerous, but I don't know if that necessarily says that in paragraph 11 too. We're looking at best states the purpose too. Number 3, or C. Sorry, C. To point out that Dr. Harridge is uncertain of her position on whether or not that now she doesn't want the animal to be cloned, right? Let's look at D. To note that while Dr. Harridge is against cloning the animal, she still believes its remains should be studied for scientific research. I'm going to say it's either B or D, honestly. To explain a reason why Dr. Harridge believes the woolly mammoth should not be cloned, or to note that while Dr. Harridge is against cloning the mammoth, she still believes its remains should be studied for scientific research. Let's look at what paragraph 11 actually says now. We know that she doesn't want the woolly mammoth to be cloned, so it's going to be either B or D. Okay? Dr. Harridge thinks scientists can learn a lot just by studying the remains of the woolly mammoth. Which one of those actually has remains in the actual answer itself? When I find which one does, I find my answer. And I find that my answer is going to be D. To note that while Dr. Harridge is against cloning the mammoth, she still believes its remains should be studied for scientific research. All right? Guys, let me explain to you what you're going to do. After reading this, I'm going to give you guys an article that I want you guys to individually read. I want you to actually go through and find the central idea. Yours may have you writing it. Yours may have or may not have you writing it. It's just going to kind of depend on where we're at with it. All right? I want you to answer each answer just the way that I did. I want you to use the highlighting tool just like I did. Again, that was in your edit. So you're going to have to take a picture of this. I know it's going to be kind of markup, and you're not going to do that for the woolly mammoth passage. You're going to be doing it for your own individual passage. So edit, 3 dots, markup, highlighter is right there, pen tool is right there. If you need to erase something, you can erase it. Okay? I know that there's a cutting tool. We don't need to cut it. We don't need to measure anything. We just simply need to go through, highlight, and find those answers. So again, edit, 3 dots, markup. Answer it like that, guys. You don't have to write it on here. You can write it on Canvas if you'd like to. I think that that might be a little bit easier for us anyway. That is what I want you guys to do. All right, cool. Appreciate it, guys. Have a wonderful day.